Good evening, future slave to the globalists. Michelle Obama is a man.
It's a man.
And we have an intriguing lineup of news that will definitely tell you the truth about tonight. Including there's new women's powerlifting records being set, big tech's latest silencing of conservatives, there's something suspicious about Maui's wildfires, and much more to hear that will make you a worse person. But first, after Obama's biographer uncovered letters that he wrote to an ex-girlfriend where he says he repeatedly fantasized about making love to men, more specificity has come out. The former president and current wife of Michael Obama wrote to an ex-girlfriend saying, "I make love to men daily, but in the imagination," which is beautifully in line with how Obama was a great president, but in the imagination. And when the former president isn't sodomizing men in his imagination, he's having his personal chef wind up dead in reality. We're confident the chef died of old age at a young age, incredibly natural causes. The chef certainly didn't hear something he wasn't supposed to, nor is it possible that he caught Michelle in an untucked moment. Our condolences to the chef and his family, and also a nod of respect to the Obamas for all their hard work that went into raking out Hillary Clinton's footprints that may or may not have been all over the scene of the crime. In other news, big tech has silenced one of the top conservative voices in the nation, Glenn Beck. To defend our banana republic against democracy, Apple removed his podcast from iTunes. Apple explained everything to Glenn Beck in detail by saying, "We found an issue with your show. Now we're sorry if that's too specific and too nuanced for you to follow." But what was the issue? Well, Beck's next episode of the podcast that was set to be released was entitled Trump vs. Biden, Which is the Crime Family? And we're sure that wasn't the issue. We speculate that Beck simply didn't have enough diversity, equity, and inclusion on his show. He had no representation for 71 out of the 73 known pretend genders, and we consider that a crime. And the world of women's powerlifting just got a lot stronger. A lovely lady named Anne Andres set Canadian national records and a world record during a recent powerlifting meet. It was there that she beat the second place lifter by 463 pounds, which is an oddly irregular margin of victory. Anne's total also would have placed her amongst the top male lifters at the meet. Now, believe it or not, Anne, who is excelling in a women's sporting event by suspicious margins, was born a man. Brave. And back in February, Anne took to Instagram writing, "Why is women's bench so bad? I mean standard bench and powerlifting competitions for women. I literally don't understand why it's so bad." Well, Anne, it really is hard to understand why it's so bad compared to your lifts. We're going to assign our top scientists to see if they can look past the increased levels of testosterone, bone density, muscle mass, and structural shape advantages that men have that don't make a difference, to see if we can discover why the women's bench is so bad compared to yours. Most likely it's because they don't try as hard as you do. And if we can get women completely banned from women's sports, then we'll finally get to see the competitive standards elevated to what they should be. Next up in the news, after Maui experienced the deadliest wildfire in US history, there are some suspicious questions being asked. And certainly none of them were answered by President Biden, who did take a break from dealing with the emergency of his beach vacation to refuse to comment on Maui. The very youthful Biden is old enough that Hawaii wasn't even a state for the first 17 years of his life, so he may not have gotten the memo that it is part of the US now. And as many lives were lost in the fires, the Hawaii governor and others wasted no time pointing the finger of blame for the wildfires at climate change. The elites know to never let a good crisis go to waste, and at other times they seem to cause the crisis that they don't let go to waste. Is this the case in Maui? Some speculate that a directed energy weapon, or DEW, was used to intentionally start the fire so that a World Economic Forum friendly, climate change fighting 15-minute city could be built upon the destroyed town of Lahaina. This doesn't make sense though, because back in January there was a meeting held on Maui about turning it into a 15-minute city. Wait a minute, that would actually make it make more sense. However, with the mainstream media working in lockstep with each other to discredit the conspiracy theory about the wildfires, using familiar terms to smear the theory such as baseless conspiracy theory and misinformation that come right out of their playbook, you can be sure that the idea is completely false, because the fact checkers said it was false. And for future reference, anytime the same media simultaneously uses the same discrediting terminology that they used on Hunter Biden's laptop, Epstein being killed in his jail cell, and the lab leak reality on something, you can be sure that what they're discrediting is in fact nothing but baseless information that most likely poses a danger to people. And it's also probably a threat to our democracy. So that's what they're doing with Maui. Certainly erases any suspicion if you're letting us control your thoughts the way you should. But what do we, the thought police, have to say to people like truth seeker Alex Zeck, who points out about the Maui wildfires? Fire hydrants were dry. Fire marshals were out of town that night. The mayor and governor were out of town. People who were trying to evacuate were told it was not time to evacuate and to turn around back into the fire. No cops with bullhorns. No firefighters in the streets. The most robust emergency siren system in the world did not sound. No warnings whatsoever. Anomalies with reported wind directions that don't scientifically add up. School was canceled. Children were home while parents worked. Hundreds of children burned alive. A perfect circle of fire around Lahaina. Molten metal next to intact trees. Media reporting fractions of real numbers. New insurance policies taken out on Lahaina before the fires. Wild how all this new uninhabitable land that only big developers can afford to clean up opened up for the plans of turning Maui into a smart island with billionaire funding. Well, to these completely baseless points, I say this. In the words of our great president, no comment. And rounding out today's mental manipulation, you may have heard Oliver Anthony's new song, Rich Men North of Richmond. It's become the #1 song in the country and is closing in on 20 million views. It's being heralded as the voice of the working class people who are sick and tired of the corruption in DC infringing on their lives. But, spoiler alert, that's all misinformation. Our fact checkers have concluded that everything mentioned in his song is in fact baseless. What the correct thinking is that Oliver Anthony is a far-right extremist, and anyone who likes his music is also an extremist. Racist, transphobe, homophobe, misogynist. His words are literally violence. There's an old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt. Not on our watch. We're here to help you get weak enough so that words will break your bones. The more you watch us, your captors who truly do care about you, the more you're helped by being infected with what's basically osteoporosis for your mind. If you're at a point where words do break your bones, then you get an A+ for obedience. That's it for tonight's news. Thank you for watching. Now go get a couple dozen more boosters. Don't use light bulbs, gas stoves, gas cars, religion, or feed your family, or breathe air. But mostly don't ask any questions, cause we've got people to kill and a climate to save. Good night! I took my pants off for this important message because I want to tell you about the best underwear on the planet, Sheath underwear. Sheath makes the most comfortable boxer briefs I've ever worn. If you're sick and tired of boxers that are too loose, or briefs that are too tight, or have poop stains that make you look like you live on the streets of San Francisco, then Sheath is for you. Sheath are made out of stretchy fabric and have moisture-wicking technology that keeps everything cool and comfortable. And unlike regular underwear that tends to make you look sexually repulsive, Sheath will make you look good. This is my butt, which brings me to another unique feature that's only found with Sheath underwear. They use a dual pouch system. So instead of having your man parts stuck together in uncomfortable ways, the dual pouch system gives you the ability to keep your man parts separated. I used to never care about the underwear I wore, yet I was always uncomfortable and I was a degenerate for it. But Sheath changed me. I am now in a strictly monogamous relationship with Sheath. And if you want to bring the most comfortable underwear on the planet to your crotchal region, then just go to sheathunderwear.com/awaken. And while you're there, use the discount code AWAKEN for 20% off your first order. Enjoy.